Hey everybody, this is David with Android Police, and we are taking a look at the LG G5. And before you ask, we don't know when it's coming out. The LG said something about maybe early April for some markets, so there's still a lot of unknowns. We also don't know how much it's going to cost. So those two big questions are ones we can't answer today. But talking about the phone itself, which obviously we have in hand here, it is a Snapdragon 820 device. It has a 5.3-inch Quad HD LCD display. It has this nifty always-on display mode that everybody had leaked at this point anyway, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. It has two camera sensors on the back. One is 16 megapixel and one is 8 megapixel, and the 8 megapixel one has an extra wide field of view around 135 degrees, which is pretty impressive. So that gives you an even wider field of view than a lot of the ultra wide angle selfie cameras out there at the moment. LG has ditched the rear control buttons for volume, but there still is the power button on the back. So this isn't like the Nexus 5X where it's just a fingerprint reader. It is also a button. It is a physical button you press. Although if you have the fingerprint enabled, obviously you don't need to press it for the phone to turn on, but we don't have that enabled on this device here. But you want it to be a button because there's not a separate power button on the sides, so you want to be able to turn the screen off. So what's new about the LG G5? Compared to the G4, pretty much everything. This is a pretty radical design departure for LG. Aside from the trademark LG chin here on the bottom, it really doesn't, call to mind that phone at all. It really doesn't look like many other phones on the market. I think the style is going to be very much an acquired taste for some people. This camera module in particular is, I hate to say it is an eyesore. It is just not very good looking. This is the silver version of the phone. You're also going to have other colors. There's going to be a gray, there's going to be a white, and there's going to be a gold. It may look a bit pink in this light. I'm not sure what the camera's capturing, but it definitely looks a little pink to us here, the silver version. As far as the screen, it is a flat panel, but LG has given a little curve on the top of the display glass there, just because they can, I guess. To give it that kind of distinct, interesting, 2.5D glass look. But around the edges here, it's all flat on the other three sides. As far as the Snapdragon 820 goes, it's hard to say how it really performs, with such an early phone. It doesn't even have, this isn't final software. It is running Android 6.0.1, of course, but there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be fine-tuned. These prototype units, the Wi-Fi doesn't even work. So this phone is obviously still, it still has some software development that needs to be done. Now, as far as the software goes, the UI layer, that is, I've not used the LG G4 Marshmallow update, so I'm not sure how much this takes from that. But compared to the G4 software on Lollipop, the styling has been updated considerably, but it's still very much similar to what we found on LG phones to date. It is a bit cleaner and a little less blocky. So I would say it's more attractive than it has been in the past. I still don't love the color scheme, but I mean, obviously that's very subjective. So software on the phone, one thing LG was apparently keen to point out is they've gotten rid of the app drawer in the stock launcher, which is kind of baffling, but that's something you can replace on your own, so it's really not even worth complaining about too much. On the cameras, what we have is on the rear, we have two sensors. And so the way LG uses that, you can see you've got this button in the camera app here. And if you hit the top button with one tree, it switches to the 16 megapixel sensor, which has a narrower field of view. If you hit the three trees, which I'm guessing number of trees is indicative of field of view. So it goes to the ultra wide angle lens here. And as you can see, it is very wide because you've got this curvature, this distortion going on with 135 degrees of field of view, which is very impressive. It allows you to get big shots of landscapes or large groups of people that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get with a typical smartphone camera. So some people I think are going to love this. There isn't any weird 3D stereoscopic imaging going on. LG hasn't tried to push that, even with the VR headset that they're working on alongside this, which we don't have in front of us at the moment, and we will possibly talk about in a separate video. The phone itself is, like I said, the 5.3-inch screen gives it a pretty reasonable hand footprint. It's not huge. It's not a tiny phone, obviously, and it's relatively thick. With a battery that's only 2,800 milliamp hours and a phone of this size, I would think they could have maybe gotten something a bit bigger in here, but maybe not. The overall experience so far is I'm really not sure what to think. LG is pushing the accessories that go with this phone very hard. That's very much the big appeal of the G5, according to LG's marketing, is the fact that you have this swappable bottom plate here, which I will demonstrate to you. We've demonstrated in another video, but I'm guessing some people are just going to watch the main video of our hands-on. As you can see, the battery here is the piece that'll pop out. So what'll happen is you'll remove the battery and then you place that battery in separate modules. If you get the camera module, for example, or the hi-fi DAC and amp combo module, you take the battery out of this original chin module and place it in the new one. So I'm just going to pop it back in here, and that's what you would, well, if I can get it to, it's a bit finicky. This is obviously a pre-production phone. And then you just slap it back in like so, and then you turn the phone back on. Like I said, the accessories are the big thing LG's pushing with this phone. Software features seem lower on the list aside from the new stuff with the camera. There is some stuff you can do with the dual cameras as far as capturing from both sensors at the same time. It's not 3D stereoscopic stuff. It's kind of you can use the narrow angle lens to focus in on a subject and the wide angle lens to capture a wider background. I'll go ahead and demo that for you here real quick now that the phone is booted back up. So we go into the modes and we go into pop out. And so the idea is in the middle here, you have a rectangle that's capturing from the narrow field of view lens. And on the borders, and you can change the shape. So this is, probably a better demonstration. You can see that the top and bottom areas are capturing from the wide angle lens and the center is capturing from the narrow angle lens. I'm not sure how many people are going to want to use this, but LG was keen to demonstrate it, so I thought I would show you guys. Like I said, we heard from LG that early April is a decent bet for when this phone will come out. I'm sorry, I just realized the brightness was way too high there, so you probably didn't get a good look of that camera feature, unfortunately. But like I was saying, early April, in some markets, this phone will come out. We don't know pricing, we don't know what availability in America is going to look like, but given that the G4 was available on all 4 major carriers, we can probably assume the G5 will be as well. So that is our first look at the LG G5, and I think we're going to have a lot more to learn about this phone when the time comes for it to actually launch.